What an amazingly fun car this is. This is a complete standalone ZR1 ECU replacement kit for the ZR1 Corvette. Did a video a little while ago on this. It didn't come out very well. The camera that we're using, when we pull light, there's light outside, kind of wash out the dash, so hoping this one will turn out a little bit better. This kit really does everything for you. Everything works. Instant fuel economy, as you can see, works. It gives you your average fuel economy. All your pressure sensors, everything broadcasted through the dash. Traction control buttons. All this stuff works. You hear the exhaust change note. I have it set to get loud above 3. So if I have the traction control function set to open the exhaust above 3, so you can drive around in the regular modes and keep it, relatively quiet, not make a bunch of noise, gonna fly under the radar, so to speak. You can also open it at any time with the cruise control settings on the stock. So if I hold my XL button down for more than, I think I have it set to 5 seconds, you hear the exhaust gets loud. So I can open it at any time. I'm going to close it again. Also, if I give it a certain amount of throttle or RPM in the calibration, that will open it. Right now I have it just set to open by throttle, so you can see how easy it is to set up. So it gets loud instantly there. So you have control over that valve, which is nice for a car like this. It's still going to be a nice street car for you to drive around. You want to keep it relatively quiet inside the cabin. You don't want the exhaust open until you're really getting after it. Other nice things that you can do. Cruise control still functions. So if we hit set, cruise control is now set. And it works perfectly. This is a really good road to test cruise control. It's got a lot of ups and downs, so it really tests that PID loop out and make sure everything's working smooth and functioning nicely. So you maintain your cruise control. Everything on the car remains. You don't lose anything. What you do gain is really good control over power, and the ZR1 adds a degree of difficulty with that just because of the blower. And by the time you add an upper pulley, a lower pulley, cam, headers, all that, they make so much torque so fast, it's really hard to control the tire. Well, we have control over the bypass valve, and we work it just like a boost controller, with a couple of exceptions. Since version 5's come out, if you don't have it, you should already be on it. But we can change gear or boost pressure, target boost pressure by RPM and gear. So I don't use it a lot on turbo cars, but on a supercharged car like the ZR1, you almost have to have it because that makes so much torque with gear multiplication. It's undrivable. Without this kind of power control, this car makes in excess of 800 horsepower wheel. It's really undrivable on street tires, and even on drag radials on certain pavements, it's going to be really tricky to control. Even on good pavement in the lower gears, it's just hard to control when you're, exceeding 800 foot-pounds of torque at 2,000 RPM in first gear. You just can't control it unless you're able to reduce power and then control it through the traction control strategy that we have. And that traction control strategy controls the throttle as well as timing and cut. So as the tires start to spin, it automatically rolls the throttle out of it. Obviously this is calibratable, so the base calibration has this set up, but otherwise you would have to go in and calibrate that. But it rolls the throttle out at a fast rate, and then you can control the rate at which it rolls throttle back in. It also reduces timing, so it controls the tire very well. In this particular car, I have logs, and I'll show them in a later video, but I can get it to the point where it just literally holds a 5-mile-an-hour slip all the way through third gear, just slightly spinning the tire. And it just gives you maximum acceleration regardless of the pavement surface. This particular pavement is where I do a lot of my testing. It's a very smooth asphalt. It's older asphalt, doesn't have a lot of grip. This car will spin the tires in fourth gear pretty violently if I don't have traction control on. So you really have to be careful, especially 2-lane highway, not much shoulder, things like that. A lot can go wrong without this type of traction control. So what you're going to see here is how well we control boost in each gear, and I'm going to demonstrate that. Go ahead and turn around here. As you can see, the whole time we're driving, I had the cruise control on. It was perfectly smooth and kind of doing its job just like the factory, which is what we shoot for. We always, that's the gold standard, is what the factory is able to accomplish for drivability and functionality. So I'm going to point your attention, while we wait here, to the boost set point. Okay, right now I have the clutch in, clutch out. So a different target boost for launching the car, different target RPM as well. If I have the brake in and I push that set button, it indicates what iBoost setting I'm on. Okay, which when you're stopped in 0, it's effectively going to be 5. But okay, if I push the clutch in, why is it doing that? There we go. RPM limiter. Sorry, the set button gives us our current limiter. That's the main limiter. Push the clutch in. That's the 2-step. So while I have the clutch in, there's our 2-step. Okay. So now I want you to watch this boost, and you're going to see, okay, so in first gear, targeting 7 pounds. Okay, and as I accelerate, you'll see that number. Well, in first gear it doesn't go up. I leave it 7 pounds the whole time. But now I'm in second gear, it's at 9.6 pounds. And as I accelerate, in the second gear, I've got it at 10 pounds pretty much the whole way up. I'm ramping it in by RPM, so over 3,000, I'm kind of all the way up. So now I'm in third gear, and as I accelerate, you'll see the boost is climbing, the target boost. Fourth gear, I'm starting off at 10. Now I'm at 17. I'm not going to go into fifth and sixth, so I'm going to be speeding too much. But you get the idea, and it really helps control the car. So I'm going to drop it down into third gear and hit it real quick just so you can kind of watch and see how this works. Feel it. Almost feels like a turbo car, the way it controls the boost and just ramps it in. Supercharged cars kind of, you hit that peak torque and then it's just accelerating. It doesn't continue to give you that pull, that rush that you feel from a turbocharger. But you can't get away with it on a car like this. You have to ramp in the power, especially on the street, on street tires, or you're never going to hook it up. If we go back and look at the log, you're going to see that the boost is controlled so well that the tires are just slightly spinning through third gear, and it allows you to get maximum acceleration. The car's safer to drive, much more controllable, a lot less driver input. You don't have to pedal the car. You just let it do its thing and the computer handles it for you, regardless of the traction that you have available. You get on pavement that has more traction, it just hooks better. The computer interferes less. It doesn't have to get involved. You just have the traction, so it just uses it. It's so important to have on a vehicle like this. Anything today, everything's capable of making so much power. It's not a matter of how much power it can make. It's a matter of how well you can put it to the ground. It's just the way it is now. And a lot of these guys that I talk to are like, oh, I can accomplish that on the factory ECU. Well, without getting too involved, you really can't. If this car was on the stock ECU right now and just recalibrated for these pulleys, I would be making max power all the time. I'd have to drive this car. This is on the stock Pilot Sports. I would have to be driving this car all the time. Well, if I'm a really good driver, I can accomplish a fair amount. But there's too many unknowns for you to be consistent as a really good driver on various pavements, changing pavements, on the street, on the track conditions change. All these conditions can change. So you don't know what you're going to have to deal with or when you have to react. Well, the computer is always monitoring the tire slip. And it can respond long before you know that the tires have gone away. Half the time when I'm driving this car, I look at the logs and I'm like, I didn't even realize the car was spinning right there. It catches it so fast and controls it so well. So it's a big deal. People dismiss that a lot, but it's a really big deal. Right now I've got 46% ethanol in here, so my tune is getting pretty aggressive because I've got plenty of octane to deal with on this car. I can run this at pump gas, it's fine. Which obviously, since we have flex fuel, doesn't matter what the ethanol content is. The computer automatically changes it. Those of you know ProFi know we do this better than anybody. The blend for target AFR, target timing, your mixture targets, they all can blend between a gas map and an ethanol content map. Your boost gets limited by ethanol content, all that kind of stuff. All that is done automatically. So there's just a lot that you can really do with this kit. The traction control that ProFi affords, again, second to none. We spend a lot of time at the track developing those strategies and testing them and improving them. And it's one of those things you're kind of never really fully satisfied when you see something in a log. You're like, oh, I think I can make this better. We spend a lot of time doing that. So the traction control stuff is hugely important on a car like this. But that also blends into the ability to control the boost, because you don't want to kill it with boost all the time and just rely on traction control, because that makes it harder. It gives the computer more to deal with. Just like in open loop tuning, you want your map to be as close as possible so the computer has to adjust less, so there's less error everywhere. It's the same concept with traction control and boost control. The closer you get in open loop tuning, if you will, the better the system is going to work. Okay, a lot of the drivability is just unreal on this thing. I've had this car into the dealer. You can see I got an airbag light. I've had this car in the dealer 3 times for that airbag light. They can't figure out what's wrong with it. They've replaced seatbelt buckles and things like that, but they've never had a clue that the system is even on the car, because everything works. As you're going faster, it ramps up the idle speed. When you're going slower, it slows it down, so it's a nice smooth transition in and out of idle. It just does everything so well. The dealer doesn't know it. Anybody driving the car would never know that this thing is on a complete standalone. Like I said, all the factory stuff works, so there's nothing pointing in that direction. So this is our ZR1 overview and tutorial. We're going to try and start doing more and more of these videos so that you can see what you get with this package. And this package starts at like $2,500 retail. You only need the ECU, the harness, and the wideband O2s. All of the factory sensors are utilized. The stock fuel pressure sensor in the back. This car is on a stock fuel system, by the way. Completely stock fuel system other than the injectors. And it's showing no signs of giving up with fuel pressure, especially at this ethanol content. It's not having to work so hard. So you can make so much power with these cars with so little invested. Like I said, this kit starts at like $2,500 retail, and it's a simple install. It takes, if you want to take the fender off, you got to take the fender off. Guys have done it without doing it. I think that's probably creating a little bit more work, but if you can do it without taking the fender off, that's great too. But the whole install maybe takes you 3 hours. And you don't have to add map sensor, you don't have to add inlet temperature, you don't have to add fuel pressure. All that stuff is done on the car, and it picks up a lot of things through CAN, so just everything works so well. So that's our ZR1 overview.